Welcome back to GOATIVATION. Today we're going to be fact-checking 6 wild claims made by Wilt Chamberlain in a 1997 interview with Conan O'Brien. The 6 Wilt Chamberlain facts that we'll be checking today are: 1. That Wilt could bench press 600 pounds. 2. That he would take cross-country drives with an average pace of around 130 miles per hour. The third is that during his high-speed cross-country drives, Wilt would hold his breath between cities for up to 5 minutes. Claim 4 is that he attempted to set the quarter-mile water ski record and reached a speed of 126 miles per hour. Number 5 is a famous Wilt Chamberlain claim that he had sex with 20,000 different women. And the 6th and final fact that we will be checking is a controversial one in the NBA world, and that is that Wilt scored 100 points in an NBA game. We're going to take an in-depth look at each claim and find evidence that either corroborates his story or proves him wrong. But before we get going, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more great videos. Now, let's get started. For the first claim that Wilt could bench press 600 pounds, let's first watch the full clip from the Conan interview to see all of what was said.
Talk about, in your prime, how you think you would have maybe stacked up against Shaquille O'Neal. What do you think would have happened, you versus Shaquille O'Neal today?
He plays an entirely different type of basketball game than I do. He uses his physicality, and he's a big, strong young man, and that works well in today's game. If he was facing me and other guys of my time, not so good. I mean, I'm a guy bench pressing around 600 pounds when I was at my best.
600 pounds?
Yeah, right. So,
I'm at 5'10". That's pretty good. I'll
yeah,
just work on it a little while.
After watching the clip, I think the first important point to note is that Wilt said he was benching nearly 600 pounds, which means that he could be rounding up. But even so, that is still an extraordinary claim, especially for someone of his height, as it is common knowledge that shorter people have an advantage at the bench press because they have a shorter distance to move the bar. The first evidence I came across when fact-checking this point was some other claims made by Wilt Chamberlain about his athletic ability. In a Reddit post in r/NBA, it shows Wilt's claimed high school personal bests at the high jump, long jump, shot put, 440-yard run, and the 880-yard run. Giving sources, the Reddit post shows that there is no evidence of Wilt's alleged records, and it shows Wilt's freshman year of college records for all of those events, none of which were as high as the records he claimed. So now that we know that Wilt Chamberlain himself is not a reliable source when it comes to his athletic achievements, let's see if there is anyone else that claims to have seen this 600-pound bench press.
Chamberlain was another one that I met and trained with. I was a big fan of his because he came to the gym and he would do a tricep extension. The strongest guys would do, let's say, 120 pounds, let's say, tricep extension, pulling down, right? He would come and he would do 150, 170 pounds, Wilt Chamberlain. That's how strong he was.
He made the moves with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were in a weight room, and Wilt says, well, how do you do that? And Arnold goes, well, this way you do it. You push up. So he goes, Wilt lays down on the bench, gets up under it. Bing, 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 bing. As Schwarzenegger never came into the weight room with Wilt again.
While these testimonies from Arnold Schwarzenegger and Al Attles don't say specifically that Wilt benched 600 pounds, it does establish that he could move at least as much weight, if not more than elite weightlifters at the tricep extension. If Attles' claim is true, then we also know that Wilt could bench what Arnold was benching with ease, and we do know that Arnold had a max bench press of 525 pounds. Based on this information, I think it is reasonable to believe that Chamberlain could have had a max bench of 550 pounds, making his claim that he benched nearly 600 pounds a slight exaggeration, but true enough, because all of our evidence is just witness testimony. I would say that the results are inconclusive, but for the sake of this video, we're going to come to a definitive conclusion for each point and say that this claim is true. Now for the second claim, we have that Wilt would drive cross-country, averaging speeds of 130 miles per hour and reach top speeds of 180 miles per hour. Let's again look at the full clip from the Conan interview.
You like to drive cross-country, but you like to do it really fast. Is that the case?
Absolutely.
How fast are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about trying to average up in the 130s and go as high as 175, 180 miles an hour.
What are you talking about? How can you go that fast and not be constantly pulled over? What happens?
Well, you have to be clever. You have to use your
What
eyes.
do you mean clever?
Oh,
You're going
yeah,
180 miles an hour.
yeah.
Everything's a blur. You're just
well,
birds are just piling up on your windshield.
The rest of this clip doesn't tell us much more information, so when doing more research, I found two important pieces of evidence. The first is an excerpt from Wilt Chamberlain's book called Who's Running the Asylum, in which Wilt says that he would drive coast to coast, only stopping to get gas, use the bathroom, or sign a speeding ticket. The second piece of evidence is a tweet from Bill Russell where he talks about racing Wilt cross-country, and the valuable information from this tweet is that it tells us what kind of car Wilt was driving, a Maserati Ghibli. We also found out that these drives were occurring in the 70s. Looking at the top speed of a 1970 Maserati Ghibli, we see that it is around 170 miles per hour, and it is highly plausible that Wilt would have had his car enhanced in some way to increase that. While it seems almost undeniable that Wilt did do high-speed coast-to-coast drives, the speeds he gave are too fast to be accurate. We know this because the current record for a coast-to-coast drive was an average pace of 110 miles per hour, with a top speed of 175 miles per hour. Based on all of this information, we're going to have to say that claim number 2 is false. The third fact that we're checking is that during his cross-country drives, Wilt says that he would hold his breath up to 5.5 minutes. Let's look at the rest of the clip to see if it gives us any more information.
You have a method for sort of like killing time.
Yeah.
When you see that you're 6 miles out of Denver and you're on the road going 150 miles an hour, what do you do to try and kill?
I hold my breath and see if I can hold my breath all the way to Denver. I gotta work my way up. When I start in New York, I can only hold my breath about like a minute. And by the time I'm halfway across the country, I can get up to almost 5.5 minutes.
So that's just to amuse yourself.
Well, yeah, it is, and I sure wouldn't advise anyone to do it because it's one of the dumbest things that one could possibly do.
In this clip, we find out that Wilt would use holding his breath as a way to kill time and push himself to drive faster to get to the next city. And we also hear him say that it is very dangerous and a dumb idea. I wasn't able to find any more relevant information online in regards to this claim. However, we do know that the average healthy person can hold their breath from 3 to 5 minutes with practice, and we know that there is a correlation between height and lung capacity. With this information, we can conclude that it would be relatively easy for Wilt to hold his breath for around 5 minutes if he practiced, which according to Wilt, he did during the first half of his drive. This doesn't mean that doing it while driving at high speeds is a smart idea, but for this claim, we are going to say that it is true. Moving on to the fourth claim that we're checking, Wilt said that he attempted to set the quarter-mile ski record and reached a speed of 126 miles per hour. Here is the whole clip from the interview.
You like to water ski at great speeds.
Yeah, I tried for the quarter-mile water ski speed record at 126 miles an hour it was. You know, and
You can't water ski 125 miles an hour.
well, I can, and I did. You got to have big feet, man. You understand? You know, it helps out.
You didn't use skis?
Well, no, I use skis.
In making this video, this fact was the hardest to confirm or deny. When doing research, there was almost no information on Wilt water skiing. All I could find was an article written by one of Wilt's former lovers after he had passed, where she told a story of Wilt taking her water skiing, and she included these pictures. Doing more research about speed water skiing, I was able to find that the water ski speed record is 143 miles per hour, set in 1983. Wilt likely would have been attempting this in the mid-70s, while he was still somewhat close to his athletic prime. Doing more research, I was able to find that the water ski record previous to the current record was a speed of 126 miles an hour, set in the spring of 1982. In 1982, Wilt would have been 46 years old and too old to attempt to break this record. So the only way that this claim could be true is if Wilt's record was the one that was broken in 1982. However, this is not the case, making claim number 4 false. For the fifth claim, and the one that I'm honestly most curious to fact-check, it's the claim that Wilt Chamberlain slept with 20,000 women. Here is the full clip from the Conan interview before we go any further.
Well, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
You made a statement, and his statement's going to follow you around for a while, that you slept with 20,000 women. You made that statement. Now, and I got to say, that's the kind of thing that you say, and then people bring it up later on.
Well, first of all, it was encounters. But, you know, I thought maybe one of the reasons you invited me on the show was to give me an award from the Board of Education. Because whenever people see me now, they go, 20,000. And let's see, he must have started when he was like 15, and he's now maybe 55. So let's see, 20,365 into 20,000. I'm teaching them mathematics, which is really the whole story here. You understand?
I don't think that's going to be a word problem for kids. If Wilt Chamberlain is with 10 women on a train headed east.
That's right. But on the serious side of that, though, you know, just so women don't think me of being really whatever, the number was to make a statement about something, and it was not ever to sort of like belittle the ladies that I've known and make them just another number. In fact, in my book, they were a number, really great-looking numbers they were, you understand? But what I was trying to say in my book...
20,000.
20,000, right.
That's all I'm thinking as you're talking. I'm not hearing any of this.
There's nothing wrong with short romance. But the idea was to say that, you know, sex really rules the world. And that, you know, for men who think that having 1,000 different women is really cool, I have found out. But you have to first find out that having one woman 1,000 different times is what's really happening.
So you had sex 1,000 times with each of the 20,000. That's what I'm thinking now. I'm really impressed now.
It takes stamina. It takes stamina. It takes stamina.
I included a little more of this clip than necessary, just because it's a pretty funny clip that I thought you guys might enjoy. But one important thing that Wilt said was that he said 20,000 encounters, which I am not entirely sure what that means. But doing more research, I read on multiple occasions that Wilt was reportedly a fan of threesomes and orgies. So I am going to take the meaning of encounters to be women who he had a part of these orgies, even if they were not directly penetrated. So let's now do what Wilt said he should get an award from the Board of Education for and calculate the average number of women he would have to be intimate with per day to make the 20,000 number accurate. Wilt originally made this claim in 1991, and let's assume he became sexually active at the age of 18 because one of his high school friends claimed that he never saw Wilt go on any dates during high school. This gives us 37 years. Wilt had to reach 20,000, which if you divide 20,000 by 37 years, you get 541 women per year, and if you divide that by 365 days, you get 1.5 women per day. Knowing that Wilt was never married because of his love for the bachelor life, and the fact that he was a fan of group sex, it is probable that he was intimate with an average of 1.5 women per day for at least a few years of his life. But it is highly unlikely that he did this for 37 years straight, especially when you consider that he claimed to have never gotten an STD and he didn't have any children, although there are rumors that he did have a son, but that's a topic for another video. In a 1999 interview that I was not able to find any video of, but I did find a transcript, Wilt said, "We're all fascinated by the numbers, as we were about the 100 points, so I thought of a number that was a round number that may be close and may be whatever, and I used that number. Now, according to the average person, that number is so preposterous that I can understand them not believing it. With all this evidence, we are going to say that this is likely a classic Wilt Chamberlain exaggeration, and while he probably did have sex with a lot of women, the real number is likely much less than 20,000, making this claim false." Now, the sixth and final claim is that Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in an NBA game. Here is the full clip from the Conan interview before we get further into it.
Let's talk about the number 100 points in one game, which I believe was versus the Knicks, 1962.
That's right.
Is that right?
It's a long time ago.
Was there a point where just the other team like left and made sandwiches on the bench? I mean,
well, I really wish it was. Actually, they were really very embarrassed about the whole thing. Understand? And so they were mad at me. You know, and I was just out there trying to have fun.
Did you start to, like, at 85 points, did you start to feel bad a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
and the people
I'll just try and miss this one, 100 points.
And I did that. I know. I did that. Then my mother scolded me when I got home. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Now, before doing any research on this one, I had heard a lot about Wilt's 100-point game and the controversy that surrounds it. So, I had assumed that there would be a good reason for people to doubt the validity of the 100-point game. But everything that I found just supports that it really did happen. First off, Wilt averaged over 50 points per game in the 1961-62 season, which is the season that his 100-point game happened in. And a 100-point game is really not that unbelievable for someone averaging 50 points per game for an entire season. Next, I looked for the box stats for this game, and they were easy to find. The final score was 169 to 147 for the Philadelphia Warriors over the New York Knicks, meaning that this was an incredibly high-scoring game with very little defense being played. From the box stats, we can also see that Chamberlain scored 28 free throws on 32 attempts, an 87.5 shooting percentage. Wilt was known for being an awful free throw shooter, so his great free throw shooting percentage in this game would explain why he was able to score so many more points than usual. The only argument against the validity of Wilt's 100-point game is that there is no video of it. However, this is perfectly reasonable, considering the game took place in 1962, when games were not often televised. In fact, only 2 games were televised this entire season, the All-Star Game and Game 6 of the Finals. Based on all the evidence showing that Wilt did, in fact, score 100 points against the Knicks, on March 2, 1962, we are going to confirm that this claim is true. And that wraps up this week's GOATIVATION video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more great videos.